John, you want me to go ahead and start or?
Yep, it's all on you.
All right, all right. Well, hey, so good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me for a few minutes. I want to talk about advancing in officiating. Um, and I do this every time I speak at a clinic or camp like this one. I also want to make sure I thank all of you for attending, for being here. You could, is this a Saturday afternoon in the summer? You could be doing anything you wanted, a lot of things other than attending an officiating camp, but you're here, and that demonstrates your commitment to the game, your commitment to getting better as an official, and that means an awful lot. As I reflect on my own officiating career, I'm a lot closer to the end of my career than I am to the beginning of it. And so it's really gratifying to know that there's a group of people that's out there that's ready to step in, that's ready to move the game and move officiating forward. So I appreciate all of you for being here and participating. So we've got 30 minutes approximately, and I want to save some time for questions and make sure we're not late to the next session. So I'm going to go ahead and get right to it. Most officials hear the phrase advancing and officiating, and what's the first thing that comes to mind? They think about moving up. That's a very common term in officiating. It's getting into college ball. It's moving from Division II to Division I. That's getting into the NFL. And so I want to, if I can, change that mindset just a little bit. And when I use the term advancing and officiating, I'm thinking about advancing your career in officiating. So what does that mean? Maybe it means, to me, advancing your career in officiating means growing and improving as an official to the point where the size and quality of your assignments get bigger over time. So maybe for you, that means moving from little league to working big high school games, or maybe it means progressing as a high school official to the point where you're being considered for a state finals assignment. Maybe one day it does include officiating at the college level or at the professional level. It could be some combination of these things. Maybe it means you never change the quote unquote level of officiating that you're working, but the type of assignments that you get grows as your career progresses. And so I guess I would encourage all of us to maybe reframe how we think about advancing and officiating. It's not so much about moving up a ladder as it is about moving along in a career path. And so I'm going to spend a little time giving you my thoughts on advancing, but I would encourage all of us, not just all of you, but all of us, to at some point to go back and rewatch John Perry's keynote from this morning. That 20 minutes is about as good a blueprint for advancing an officiating career as any that I've ever seen or heard. And what struck me about it is a lot of it had nothing to do with actual football. It was about getting our lives together and being the best that we can outside of the game as well as inside the game. And so I was really struck by that and would encourage all of us to take a look at that again. I'm going to take a few minutes. I want to pass along 6 tips that were shared with me a long time ago that I believe can make the difference in advancing our officiating career. Again, whether that means moving along, moving up, whatever that means to you. And I'm going to start by saying these 6 tips work. I'm 33 years now into my officiating career, and I still follow each one of these tips to this day. And I do think that they're going to work for you as well. So I want to share my screen if I can. So want to advance your career in officiating, I'm going to pass along 6 tips. So tip number 1. Master the rules and the officiating philosophies of whatever level of football you are working, whether it's pee-wee, high school, collegiate, professional. There are a lot of things in a football game that we cannot control. One of the things that we can control is our knowledge and proper application of the rules. And I'll tell you, no matter what level you are working, assigners, supervisors, scouts, the people who actually decide whether or not we advance in our careers as officials will not accept any excuse for not being rock solid on the rules. So how do we master the rules? Simple. We put in the work, we put in the time, 15 to 30 minutes a day, every day, studying the rule book and the case book. Pick a section, stick with it until you know it cold, then move on to the next section. And when you've gone through the whole book, start over again. This time, mix it up a little bit, mix up the order, change the order of what you're studying just to keep things fresh in your mind. If you have access to rules tests, test yourself. You go through those tests, find a small study group or create one if you have to work those tests together. You bounce answers off of each other. You discuss the test questions and the answers. You use each other to get better. I don't shortchange the rules study if you want to advance your career in officiating. Tip number 2, master the mechanics of your position. All the rules knowledge in the world will not matter one bit if we can't put ourselves in position to see the action when it happens, or if we're looking in the wrong place when the time comes to make a decision. And now, as a deep wing official, when I work side judge, field judge, I may know the pass interference rules cold. But if I don't maintain a good cushion downfield as the play develops, or if I'm don't make sure that I'm standing still and moving as little as possible when the players come together and make a play on the ball, then it's going to be impossible for me to consistently make correct rulings on the field, no matter how well I know the rules. So I talk about mastering the mechanics of your position, which is critical, to master the mechanics of the position you're working. But I think it's also important to know the mechanics of the other positions on the field as well. You may be a side judge, but it helps to know what the umpire mechanics are, what the line of scrimmage mechanics are, the referee mechanics. And I'll give you at least 3 reasons why I think this is important. First of all, and probably the most important reason, is that when you know what your crewmates are doing, as well as what you're supposed to be doing, it helps you to do your job better because you understand how your mechanics fit in to the entire scheme of the crew. I talk about, I often talk about football being the ultimate team sport because you've got 11 players out on the field and each one has their own specific job to do, but that job fits into a broader scheme, a broader plan. And if any one of those is off, then the entire team is off. And that the same is true with officiating. You've got your mechanics, you know what your job is, but you need to understand everyone else's job as well, so that you know how your mechanics fit into that crew scheme. Second reason you want to know other position mechanics is you never know when you might have to step in for an injured or sick crewmate. And if you have to do that, you certainly need to know how to work that other position. This may be a decision that happens on the fly. Someone gets hurt during a game or they get sick right before a game and you've got to step in. So you want to know what the other positions do. And third, if you want to make yourself more attractive to supervisors and assigners as you move along in your career, then you need to be versatile. And an assigner may not need someone at the position you are currently working, but if he or she needs someone at another position and you can work that position, then you make yourself more attractive and you give yourself more opportunities to advance. So mastering the mechanics takes practice. It just does. That means getting reps, getting snaps. Of course, you need to study the mechanics manual. You need to know what's in it and what it requires. But really, the only way to understand what's in the manual is to see it on the field. And there are 2 ways to get what I would call reps. The first is physical reps. Get out on the field and work. If you can find opportunities to work scrimmages, practices, take advantage of every opportunity that you can to get on the field and get physical reps in addition to to working your games. And the second way to practice mechanics to get reps is what I would call mental reps. That means studying video. Study your own games if you can. But study other people as well. Study other people's games. Watch their mechanics. See what they do, when they do it, and more importantly, ask questions about why they're doing it, why they're moving the way they are, why they get into this position, why they go here, why are they looking there. Our Walt Anderson, who's the head of officiating training and development for the NFL, likes to use the phrase "moving with purpose." Don't just move for the sake of moving, but understand why you're moving and how that movement gets you in position to officiate the play properly. And you can get a lot of that from getting mental reps, from studying video. Certainly camps and clinics like this one are a great way to get both mental reps and physical reps. And we're looking forward to being able to get back together in person so we can get those physical reps out on the field, as well as being able to look at video. I'm not suggesting that you break the bank and travel all over the country just for camps. But if you're able to get to one or two a year, I guarantee you it's time and money well spent to master your position mechanics. Tip number 3, got to look the part. It's very, very simple. If we're not physically fit, we're not going to advance in officiating. The very first impression that we make as an official happens when we leave the locker room to take the field, before the game starts, before we have a chance to show off our rules knowledge and our mechanics to signers and scouts and supervisors. If we're in shape, we look like athletes, we wear a clean uniform that's pressed and it fits properly, then they'll keep looking at us to see how good we really are. But if we're significantly overweight, if our uniform is sloppy, if our shoes aren't clean, then our rules knowledge and mechanics won't matter at all, because they've already stopped looking. If we want to get those bigger games, we want to get the state finals assignments, we want to get the college assignments, maybe even one day getting looked at by the NFL or Division I conference, then we need to be in shape and we need to look the part. And we need to understand that this is a year-round commitment. Somebody told me once that it's easier to be in shape than it is to get in shape. And that simple phrase, but it stuck with me. And I think about it all the time, especially in February and March and April, when I feel like slacking off and not getting in the gym. But it's easier to be in shape than it is to get in shape. There is no off season when it comes to our physical fitness if we want to advance our career in officiating. Tip number 4, if we want to advance in officiating, we need to take care of the business side of the job. We can't afford the luxury of being half-assed with our administrative responsibilities. If there's paperwork that needs to get submitted, if there's a registration that needs to be filed, if there's a payment that needs to be made, some form that needs to be that needs to be submitted, then make sure that stuff is accurate, and we need to make sure we get it in on time. Supervisors and assigners, they understand that we make mistakes on the field sometimes. You heard Bill Carolla this morning talk about some of the really, really big mistakes that he's made on the field, and Bill he understands that happens, but nothing frustrates a supervisor or a signer more than an official who doesn't handle his or her business. Take care of the administrative stuff. Listen, they don't want to deal with that with the administrative stuff any more than we do, but it's a necessary part of the job for them and for us. So we don't want to make their jobs harder by not doing our job. And I've seen it happen enough that I feel pretty confident saying, I promise you, if you don't take care of the business side, they will move on from you. No matter how good you may be on the field, they just don't need the aggravation of trying to deal with an official that doesn't handle the business side of what they're doing. Tip number 5. If you want to advance your officiating career, you need to be known as a good crewmate. And you do that in 2 ways. The first is on the field. I have a favorite phrase that I like to use with my crew, and I use it all the time and with every official I ever talk to. And I say, step up and help out. And what I mean by that is every game you work, there's going to be some point during that game when every official on the crew has an opportunity to step up and bail the crew out of a mistake. It may be that you've got a better look at a play where somebody drops a flag for pass interference or an illegal block in the back, and you've got a better look at it, and you can add that, come to that official, give him the information that you have, and pick up that flag, bail the crew out of a bad call. Maybe it's fixing a clock issue. The clock should have stopped. We're trying to kill the clock. The clock continues to run. You see that the clock has continued to run, and you're able to fix that and tell the referee to put some time back on the clock. Maybe there's an enforcement mistake that we're about to make, and you have the opportunity to step up and say, "Hey, wait a minute! I don't think we're not doing that right. Let's rethink how we're enforcing this foul." And when I say step up and help out, I mean, when your opportunity comes, do not let it pass you by. You need to step up, be there for each other on the field, be there for your crew, and help when you have that opportunity. Don't be the person that goes into the locker room at halftime or at the end of the game and says, "Hey, wait, you know what? Did we do that right? I'm not sure if we handled that right. I was thinking about, yeah, I saw that, but I didn't say anything at the time. But well, let's talk about it." That's how you become a good crewmate on the field. Off the field, being a good crewmate means carrying yourself in a way that other officials want to work with you. I get it. We all want to work with people who are great on the rules, have solid mechanics, are physically fit, they handle their business, but we also want to work with people who aren't jerks. And I would say, always remember this: whenever you're on the field, when you're in the locker room, when you're at a scrimmage, a practice, a camp, a clinic, anytime that you are around other officials or scouts or signers, you are always being evaluated by someone. Maybe it's someone who can directly help you advance your career. Maybe it's someone who knows someone who can directly help you advance your career, or someone who knows someone who knows someone who can help you advance your career. Word of mouth and referrals are how people move in this business. So if you want to advance in officiating, you want to avoid being that guy. And who is that guy? Well, we've seen him or her all the time. They're easy to spot. They talk badly about other officials. They say things like, "How could they have screwed that up?" When every one of us knows that we've never worked a perfect game before. They always have something to say when a supervisor or a clinician tries to give them feedback. We call them "yeah but" people. If somebody gives them feedback and they'll say, "Yeah but," and there's some explanation. It's not a good look. Or they're quick to take credit for good plays and pass blame for the mistakes. They throw their crewmates under the bus to make sure that they look good when a mistake has happened on the field. They complain all the time. Maybe they complain about teams, they complain about other officials, they complain about their supervisor. And there's always somebody or something that they can blame for their officiating career not going the way that they hope. They say it's politics instead of being accountable. Those people stand out, and they stand out to the people that matter, and their careers tend not to go very far. So you don't want to be that person. Finally, tip number 6, and I'm going to borrow a phrase from a good friend of mine, Reggie Smith, who's a Big Ten referee, and he says, "Be where your feet are." best piece of advice that I can give anyone who asks me about how to quote unquote move up is to not worry about moving up. Wherever you are right now, you heard John Perry say this, you heard Bill Carollo say this, wherever you are right now, you need to be the very best official you can be in that place where your feet are. If you're working freshman JV games on Thursday night, don't worry about when you're going to start to work Friday games. If you're working a Friday night game in September, don't worry about when you're going to get the call to work the state championship game. And if you're working Division II or Division III games on Saturday afternoon, don't worry about when you're going to get the call from the Big Ten. Your physical and your mental energy should be focused on whatever level you're working right now. If you focus on being great where you are, the rest will take care of itself. Because like I said, somebody is always watching and somebody is always evaluating. I know this, and I'm really passionate about this last point, be where your feet are, because it really explains how my career, my officiating journey to the NFL happened. And it was October of 2002. I was a referee in the GLIAC, was working a game at Mercyhurst College, and the late Jerry Bergman Sr., who was a line judge in the NFL, worked 4 Super Bowls, happened to be in the stands watching a relative of his who played for Mercyhurst. Now, Jerry wasn't there to scout officials or look at officials. He didn't know me at all. But after the game, he watched the crew work, and after the game, he reached out to me through another person on the crew and suggested that I apply to the NFL. And I did. He placed a phone call to Larry Upson, who was a supervisor in the NFL, and that's how I got on the NFL's radar. 3 years later, I was working a Mid-American Conference game at Navy. And after the game, the crew was in the locker room, we're getting dressed, and there's a knock on the door, and in walks Jim Duke, who was a supervisor for the NFL. He'd come to watch some people on the crew work, but none of us knew about it. He didn't tell us. Nobody knew he was there. Nobody knew he was coming. 2 years later, I'm working in NFL Europe, and 3 years after that, I worked my first NFL game. So in case the point of all that isn't obvious, let me be really explicit about it. Somebody is always watching. Whatever game you're working, whatever scrimmage you're working, whatever camp you're attending, whatever local association meeting you happen to be at, do your best in that spot. If you're good enough, the rest will take care of itself. So let me close with this, and I'm going to open it up to questions. All these tips that I'm throwing out there: knowledge of the rules, mastery of your position mechanics, being physically fit, attention to your administrative details, your personal traits, personality, focusing on being the best where you are. These are all things that are completely within your control. There's a quote I like to share with my crew from one of my favorite comedians, Kevin Hart. And Kevin says, everybody wants to be famous, but nobody wants to do the work. And at the end of the day, if you put in all the work, it'll pay off. So that's going to be my suggestion to you. Put in the work, be really great at all the things that you can control, and no matter where you're working, your career in officiating will advance. So that's my spiel. We've come to the interactive part of the discussion. I'm going to open it up to any questions that anybody has. Be happy to answer them.
Any questions or comments? I know that was a lot of good information, and I don't know if you heard any of this before, but it never gets old because it's so true. Yeah. And I just echo his points. The more or the further you advance, the more true you realize those how important those statements are. And control what you can control. And I mean, I just think you hit all the points on the head. So I see Burrell, you have your camera on. I don't know if you want to have a question for Ron.
Oh no, I didn't have a question, but I do appreciate the knowledge that you shared. You know, for a young official, that's what we want to know all the time is how to get to a next place. But like you said, you look past where you're working now, and that's just good advice.
Appreciate it. Thank you. It's worked for me, and I think I'm getting to the point where people have heard this over and over again. I think that's a good thing because it really is true. It really works. It's how it happens.
Hey Ron, Storm Guitar here. Just a quick question. Would you said master the rules is kind of what you listed first. Would you say that is number one, or would you kind of say all 6 of those are pretty interchangeable and all equal?
It's up there. Would I say it's number one? It's kind of hard. Well, it's kind of hard to say mastering the rules is not the number one thing you should focus on because clearly you don't want to, you want to be rock solid on the rules and you want to show people you are. But I think mechanics. I mean, those things that offer up that very first impression might be more important.
Folks are starting to join. Go ahead.
Mastering your mechanics, making sure that you're physically fit and looking the part, how you carry yourself when you're around other people. Those are all the things that people notice first. We're gonna make mistakes on the field, and some of those are rules related, and I don't ever want to say it's acceptable. But people understand that it happens, and it takes time to learn the rules. You're not going to learn them all in a week or even in a season. So I'd say it's really important. You certainly don't want to shortchange it, but I'm not sure if I'd put it number one on the list. I have to be careful how I say that because I don't want to make it sound like it's unimportant, but it is. But I think I'd probably put mechanics and how you carry yourself maybe a little bit higher on the list.
All right, thank you.
All right.
All right. Well, again, we appreciate you, Torbert, for leading this session and dealing with my technical difficulties at the beginning. That's my apologies, but we got it going.
We got it
done. It's just like officiating, man. It never goes as planned, right? You pre-game, you do all this work, and then you go out there and something's going to happen that you just have to adjust on the fly. And that's being real. I mean, that's just what we do. And that's what makes it fun. So again, thanks again for everyone that's on this call. The breakout sessions are starting now, so I'll have to end this link to get the umpire breakout session going, but the other ones are on. And again, all the best, Torbert. Really appreciate it, man.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, great. Okay. All right. Talk to you guys in the future.
All right.
See ya.
Good luck, everybody.
Enjoy your day. Thanks.